The sun did not shine that afternoon. It punished. It hung low and heavy in the sky, pressing down on the earth like an angry hand, draining the life out of everything beneath it. The road shimmered in waves of heat, and the air itself felt thick, as though breathing required effort. Dust clung to everything, to the broken pavement, to the rusted zinc roofs of nearby shanties, to the skin of those who had nowhere else to go. And among them was her, Amara. She sat on a low concrete slab beside an overflowing trash bin, her body slightly bent forward, one hand pressed against her lower back, the other resting protectively on her swollen belly. She was 25 years old, but life had already aged her beyond recognition. Her dress, once blue, had faded into an uncertain gray. It clung loosely to her thin frame, stretched awkwardly over her pregnancy. The hem was torn. One sleeve hung slightly off her shoulder. Dirt had become part of the fabric. Her slippers were worse. The left one had a broken strap she had tied together with a piece of nylon. The right one was barely holding on, its sole worn thin from months of walking on harsh roads. Her hair, once thick and neatly braided, now sat in rough, uneven twists. Strands escaped in every direction, framing a face that carried both beauty and exhaustion. But it was her eyes that told the real story. They were tired, not just from the heat, not just from hunger, but from surviving, from enduring, from hoping, and being disappointed too many times. She swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry, like sand had settled inside it. She hadn't eaten since the previous afternoon, and even then, it had only been a small portion of cold rice someone had reluctantly handed her after she stood outside their gate for nearly an hour. Now her stomach twisted painfully, a sharp, hollow ache, the kind that didn't let you forget, the kind that reminded you over and over again that your body was running on nothing. She closed her eyes briefly. "Just a little longer," she whispered under her breath. Her voice was hoarse, barely audible. "I'll find something." As if in response, the baby inside her shifted, a slow, firm movement. Amara inhaled sharply. Then she smiled, a small, fragile smile, but real. "I know," she murmured, gently rubbing her belly. "I know, my love. I'm trying." Her fingers lingered there, tracing the curve of her stomach as if she could comfort the child within through touch alone. "You'll be okay," she said softly. "I promise you." But promises felt heavier when you had nothing. A group of people passed by on the road, two women in bright dresses, their laughter loud and careless, carried on the wind. A young man followed behind them, holding a phone to his ear, speaking quickly, his polished shoes tapping confidently against the ground. None of them looked at her, or maybe they did, but only for a second, only long enough to recognize what she was, and then look away. Amara was used to that. She had learned painfully that poverty made people uncomfortable. It forced them to confront things they would rather ignore, so they didn't stare, they didn't ask, they didn't help, they simply walked past. She shifted slightly on the slab, wincing as a dull pain ran through her lower back. Pregnancy was not meant to be endured like this. Not without rest, not without food, not without care. But life had not asked her what was fair. There was a time just months ago when things had been different. Not perfect, but better. She had a small room, a job at a roadside food stall, a routine, a future she could at least imagine. Then everything fell apart. The owner of the stall died suddenly, and his children wasted no time selling the place. The new management had no use for old workers. She was dismissed within a week. No savings, no support, and by then she was already pregnant. The father had vanished the moment responsibility became real. First she had tried. She searched for work, went from shop to shop, house to house. "I can clean," she would say. "I can cook. I can do anything." But people saw her belly before they heard her words. And that was enough. "We don't need help right now. Come back after you deliver. You'll just slow things down." Each rejection chipped away at her until eventually there was nowhere left to go. The sound of a fly buzzing near her ear pulled her back to the present. She swatted at it weakly, too tired to be annoyed. The trash bin beside her gave off a strong, sour smell. Rotten food, plastic, decay. But even that smell had become familiar, almost comforting, because sometimes trash meant possibility. Leftovers, something small to survive on. Amara slowly leaned forward, peering into the bin, her movements careful, deliberate. Her body didn't allow for sudden actions anymore. Inside, the contents were piled unevenly, plastic bags, food wrappers, broken containers. She hesitated. There was always a moment like this, a quiet battle between dignity and survival. But hunger always won. Always. She reached inside, her fingers brushed against something wet. She pulled back slightly, grimacing. Then tried again. This time she pushed deeper, moving things aside, searching, hoping. Her breathing became shallow, her heart beating just a little faster. Maybe there was something, anything, even a scrap, even a bite. She leaned further in, and that's when she saw it. First, it didn't make sense. It didn't belong there. Not in a place like this. A black leather bag, clean, untouched by the filth surrounding it. It sat wedged between two torn plastic sacks, almost hidden, but too perfect to ignore. Amara froze, her hand hovered in the air, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. A bag like that didn't end up in trash by accident. Slowly, carefully, she reached for it. Her fingers wrapped around the handle. Felt solid, heavy, different. She pulled it out of the bin, placing it gently on her lap. Dust settled around her as she adjusted her position. Her heart began to beat faster now, not from hunger, from something else, something unfamiliar, hope, fear, possibility. She stared at the bag, her reflection faintly visible on its smooth surface. Then she swallowed and reached for the zipper. Her hands trembled just slightly, but enough. She paused, looked around. The road was still busy. People moving, talking, living. No one was paying attention to her. No one cared. No one noticed. She exhaled slowly. Then she opened the bag. The world stopped. Her breath caught instantly, as if the air had been stolen from her lungs. Inside the bag were bundles neatly stacked, tightly packed money. So much money that her mind refused to understand it. Her fingers hovered above it. Then slowly, hesitantly, she touched one bundle. Real. Not a dream. Not an illusion. Real. Her entire body went still. A strange ringing filled her ears. Her heart beat loud, heavy, unsteady. She looked up again. Still no one watching. No one noticing. It was just her. And this impossible moment. A sound escaped her lips. Half laugh, half sob. God. Tears filled her eyes almost instantly. Hot, uncontrolled. They rolled down her cheeks, leaving clean lines through the dust on her skin. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. This could change everything. Food, a place to sleep, clothes, medical care, a future for her baby, no more begging, no more hunger, no more nights on cold ground. Her grip tightened on the bag. Her thoughts raced wildly now. Take it, go, don't think. Think this is your miracle. She clutched the bag closer to her chest, her breathing uneven, her heart pounding harder with each passing second. For the first time in a long time, she felt power, control, a way out. But deep inside, something stirred. A quiet voice, soft but persistent, and it refused to be ignored. Amara did not move. Not at first. She sat frozen on the low concrete slab, the black leather bag resting on her lap. Her fingers still lightly touching the bundles inside as though they might vanish if she pressed too hard. The world around her continued as usual. Voices, footsteps, distant car horns, a child laughing somewhere across the road. But all of it sounded far away now, muted, distorted, like she had been pulled into a different space entirely, because nothing in her life had ever prepared her for this moment. Slowly, she zipped the bag halfway closed, not fully, just enough to hide its contents from casual view. Her heart was racing so hard it almost hurt. She looked to her left. A woman walked past carrying a basket of fruits on her head. To her right, two young men argued loudly over something trivial, their voices sharp and careless. No one noticed her. No one noticed the bag. No one knew. A strange thought crept into her mind. This is yours now. Her fingers tightened slightly on the handle. She swallowed. The dryness in her throat had returned. Worse this time. Her stomach twisted again. This time not just from hunger, but from something else. Possibility, danger, choice. Carefully, she pulled the bag closer to her body, instinctively shielding it with her arm. Her eyes darted around again. Still no attention. Still no suspicion. She slowly unzipped it again. Just a little. Just enough to look inside. The money was still there. Stacked, neat, real. Her chest rose sharply. How? She whispered, barely audible. How could something like this exist in a place like this? How could something so valuable be thrown away like waste? It didn't make sense. Nothing about it made sense. Her fingers moved again, this time more deliberately. She picked up one bundle. It was thick, heavy, secured tightly with a band. She turned it slightly, staring at it as though it held answers. Her hands began to shake. She quickly placed it back as if touching it for too long might do something to her. Her mind started racing. Faster now, louder. You can leave this place right now. No more hunger. No more begging. She imagined it. A small room, a bed, clean clothes, food, real food placed in front of her without having to ask. She imagined walking into a clinic, being treated with care instead of pity. She imagined holding her baby in a safe place, warm, protected, alive. Tears gathered in her eyes again. This wasn't just money. This was survival. This was dignity. This was everything she had been denied. Her breathing became uneven. Her grip tightened. Take it. The voice was louder now, more confident. No one will know. No one saw you. This is your chance. She pressed the bag tighter against her stomach. Almost protectively, her baby shifted again, a firm movement, a reminder. She froze. For a brief moment, everything inside her went quiet. Then another thought came, slower, softer, but heavier. What if it belongs to someone? Her brows tightened. She hesitated. Of course it belonged to someone. Money like this didn't just appear. It wasn't abandoned. It was lost or stolen or hidden. Her eyes drifted back to the bag. Carefully, she opened it wider this time. Her movement slower now, more cautious, more aware. She pushed aside a layer of the bundles, and that's when she saw it. A small card tucked neatly inside. Her breath caught. She reached for it, her fingers trembling again, but for a different reason. Now she pulled it out, turned it over. Clean, white, simple, but important. Her eyes scanned the surface. A name, an address, a company logo printed boldly at the top. Her heart sank. This wasn't random. This wasn't forgotten. This was someone real, someone who could be looking for it right now, someone who might be desperate, the same way she had been desperate. Her grip on the card tightened, and suddenly the bag felt heavier, not physically, but morally. She closed the bag slowly, this time completely. Her hands rested on top of it. Still, her breathing steadied, but her chest felt tight, conflicted, torn. Her eyes stared ahead, unfocused. Her thoughts clashed violently now. Keep it. Return it. You need it. It's not yours. This is your only chance. This is not your path. She shook her head slightly as if trying to silence the noise, but it only grew louder, more aggressive, more urgent. A man walked past her and dropped a small nylon bag into the trash bin. It landed with a soft thud. The smell that followed was sharp, spoiled food. Amara instinctively looked toward it. Food. Even now her body responded. Her stomach tightened painfully. She almost reached for it. Almost. Then she looked back at the bag in her lap. Full, overflowing with more money than she could count. And yet she was still hungry. The irony hit her hard. A broken laugh escaped her lips. "Look at me," she muttered weakly. She had everything and nothing. At the same time, her eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they didn't fall immediately. They stayed there burning, threatening, because this wasn't just about money. This was about who she was and who she would become. She thought about her past, about her mother, a woman who had nothing but gave everything. A woman who used to say poverty is not a sin, but losing yourself is. Amara closed her eyes tight as if she could shut out the decision waiting for her, but it didn't go away. It sat there, heavy, unavoidable. "What do I do?" she whispered. Her voice broke slightly. She looked down at her belly again, her hand resting gently over it. "You deserve better," she said softly. "I want to give you everything." Her throat tightened, her vision blurred. "I want to give you a life I never had." The baby moved again, gentler this time, almost like a response. Amara inhaled deeply, then slowly exhaled. Her tears finally fell, one after the other, quiet, uncontrolled. She hugged the bag tightly to her chest, her shoulders shaking slightly. "This could save us," she whispered, but her voice cracked. "But what will it make me?" The question lingered in the air, unanswered, but powerful. Time passed, minutes, maybe longer. She didn't know. The sun shifted slightly in the sky, casting longer shadows across the road. The world kept moving, but Amara remained there, still thinking, fighting, choosing. Eventually, she wiped her face with the back of her hand. Slowly, deliberately, her breathing steadied. Not calm, but controlled. She looked down at the bag one last time, then at the card, then back at the bag. Her eyes hardened slightly, not with anger, but with decision. She zipped the bag fully, this time with intention. Her fingers held the zipper firmly until it reached the end, a small final sound. The zip felt louder than it should have, like a line being drawn. She stood up slowly. Her legs trembled slightly from sitting too long and from everything she had just gone through. She adjusted her dress, wiped her face again, held the bag tightly in one hand, the other resting on her belly. Her posture was still weak, still tired, but something had changed. Something inside her had settled. "I don't know what will happen," she whispered quietly, "but I know who I am." She took a step forward, then another, walking away from the trash bin, away from the temptation, away from the easiest path, and towards something uncertain, something difficult. But right behind her, the trash bin remained, overflowing, forgotten as if nothing had happened. But everything had, because in that moment, a homeless, hungry, pregnant woman had chosen integrity over survival. And though she didn't know it yet, that choice was about to change her life forever. Night came slowly, not with comfort, not with peace, but with a heavy, stretching darkness that seemed to mirror the weight in Amara's chest. The sky faded from a harsh, burning orange into a dull gray, and then into deep blue. Street lights flickered to life one by one, casting weak pools of yellow light along the road. Shadows grew longer, voices grew fewer, the world began to settle, but Amara could not. She sat beneath a broken wooden shed a short distance away from the road. It barely provided shelter, just a few uneven planks nailed together, leaning slightly to one side as though even it was tired of standing. Still, it was better than nothing. It always was. The ground beneath her was rough, scattered with small stones and patches of dry grass. She shifted slightly, trying to find a position that didn't send sharp discomfort through her lower back. But comfort had become a luxury she no longer expected. The black leather bag sat beside her, close within reach. Too close. She kept glancing at it, then looking away, then back again as if it had eyes, as if it was watching her, waiting. Her stomach growled loud, painful. She pressed her hand against it, wincing slightly. "Please," she whispered under her breath. Though she wasn't sure if she was speaking to her body or to God, her throat burned with dryness. Her lips were cracked. Every part of her body reminded her of what she lacked: food, water, rest, security, everything. And yet, right beside her was the solution. She reached for the bag, slowly, almost reluctantly, her fingers wrapped around the handle. She pulled it onto her lap. The weight settled there again, solid, real, unignorable. Her breathing grew shallow. "Just look at it again," she murmured, as if permission was needed, as if she needed to justify even that small action. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the zipper. The soft sound cut through the silence. Inside, nothing had changed. The money was still there, neat, plentiful, overwhelming. Her chest tightened. She stared at it for a long time. Too long. Her thoughts began to spiral again. This is your answer. You prayed for help. This is help. Why are you fighting it? She swallowed. Her fingers moved again, brushing lightly against the bundles. Her mind painted pictures: clear, tempting, clean beds, soft sheets, a fan spinning gently overhead, a plate of hot food, rice, stew, maybe even meat. She imagined eating slowly, without rushing, without fear of someone chasing her away. She imagined sleeping without waking up every hour, without fear, without cold, without hunger. Her eyes filled with tears. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I just want to live." The baby moved, a sudden strong kick. Amara gasped softly, her hand flying to her belly. "I know," she said quickly, her voice softening. "I know, my love." She rubbed her stomach gently. "I haven't forgotten you." Her expression shifted, not softer, not lighter, but deeper, because now it wasn't just about her, it never really was. She closed the bag halfway, her eyes fixed on the small card again. Still there, still waiting. A quiet reminder. A truth she could not ignore. This belonged to someone. Someone who might be searching. Someone who might be desperate. Someone who might be hurting just like her. She leaned her head back against the wooden post behind her, closed her eyes tightly as if she could escape the decision, but the decision didn't disappear. It sat there heavy, demanding. "Keep it." The voice came again, stronger this time, more persuasive. "You didn't steal it. You found it. If you don't take it, someone else will. You're just surviving." Her breathing became uneven again. Her grip tightened on the bag. Her heart began to pound faster because the voice made sense. It sounded reasonable. It sounded logical. Sounded right. But then another voice, quieter but sharper, cutting through everything. "And what will you become?" Amara's eyes snapped open. Her chest rose sharply. Her thoughts froze. Silence. Deep, uncomfortable silence. She looked down at her hands. Dirty, worn, tired. Hands that had worked. Hands that had struggled. Hands that had endured. And now, hands that held a choice. Her mind drifted back to a different time, a different life. Her mother's face appeared in her memory, clear, warm, strong, a woman who had suffered but never bent. She remembered a day, a small moment, but one that stayed with her. They had been walking home when they found money on the ground, not much, but enough to matter. Amara, younger then, had picked it up excitedly. "Look," she had said, "we can buy food." But her mother had taken her hand gently and said something she would never forget. Not everything you find is yours to keep. Amara's chest tightened. She could hear her voice now, clear as if she was sitting beside her. Character is what you do when no one is watching. Tears slipped from her eyes, slow, silent, unstoppable. No one is watching, she whispered, her voice trembling. Except me. She bent forward slightly, resting her elbows on her knees, the bag still in her hands. Her shoulders shook faintly, the weight of the moment pressing down on her fully now. No distractions, no escape, just truth. Her stomach growled again, louder this time, more painful, her body reminding her, demanding, begging. She clenched her jaw tightly, tears falling faster now. I'm tired, she whispered. I'm so tired. The night grew deeper, cooler, but not kinder. A breeze passed through, lifting strands of her hair slightly. The world around her had quieted almost completely now. Only distant sounds remained, a barking dog, passing car, a faint radio playing somewhere far away, everything else still. Amara slowly wiped her face. Her breathing gradually steadied. Not because the pain was gone, but because something inside her was shifting, settling, deciding. She looked down at the bag one last time, really looked at it. Not as salvation, not as temptation, but as a test. This could change my life, she said softly, her voice calm now, grounded. But it could also change who I am, she paused, her hand resting firmly on the bag. I've already lost so much. Her throat tightened again. But I won't lose myself. The words hung in the air, firm, certain, final. She took a deep breath. Then slowly she closed the bag completely, the zipper sliding shut with quiet finality. This time there was no hesitation. She placed the bag beside her, but not carelessly, carefully, with intention, as though acknowledging its importance but refusing its control. Her hand moved to her belly again. She smiled, faintly, tired but real. You'll understand one day, she whispered. I want you to be proud of me. The baby shifted gently, almost like a response. Amara let out a soft breath, her shoulders finally relaxing slightly, not because life had become easier, but because the decision had been made. She leaned back again, her eyes lifting toward the night sky. The stars were faint, barely visible through the haze, but they were there, quiet, steady, unchanging. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, she said softly, but I know what I'll do. She closed her eyes, not to escape, but to rest, even if only for a moment, even if only for a few hours, because tomorrow she would walk to an address she had never seen, to a life she could not imagine, to a consequence she did not understand. But tonight she had won the hardest battle, the one inside her, and as sleep slowly, gently began to take her, the bag sat quietly beside her, no longer a burden, no longer a temptation, but a choice already made. And somewhere deep within her, peace, small, fragile, but real, had finally found its way in. Morning came too quickly. Amara barely felt like she had slept, if she had slept at all. Her body ached as she slowly opened her eyes, the stiffness in her back reminding her exactly where she was, the hard, uneven ground beneath the broken shed. For a moment she didn't move. She just lay there, staring up at the dull morning sky, her mind blank until reality rushed back all at once. The bag. Her heart skipped. She turned her head sharply. It was still there, right beside her, exactly where she had left it, untouched, unmoved, real. She let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. Then slowly she pushed herself up into a sitting position, wincing as a sharp pain ran through her lower back. Ah! She exhaled softly, pressing her palm against it. Her other hand instinctively moved to her belly. The baby shifted gently, alive, present, depending on her. "I know," she murmured. "We have a long day ahead." The morning air was cooler than the night had been, but it didn't carry comfort, just a quiet stillness before the world fully woke up. Amara looked at the bag again, then at her hands, then down at her clothes. Reality set in deeper. She was about to walk into a place she did not belong. Not in appearance, not in status, not in any way the world recognized. Her dress was still torn, still dusty, her hair still rough, her slippers still barely holding together, and yet she was carrying something that could command attention anywhere. She swallowed a small knot forming in her chest. "Will they even let me in?" she whispered. The question lingered, heavy, valid. She reached for the bag, gripping it firmly. This time, not as temptation, not as a burden, but as responsibility. She slowly got to her feet. Her legs protested, her body felt weak. But she stood anyway because she had already made the hardest decision. Now she just had to follow through. The address on the card felt heavier than the bag itself. She had read it multiple times the night before, repeating it quietly to herself until it stayed in her memory. Still, she checked again, carefully pulling the card from the bag. Her eyes scanned the clean print. Clear, precise. A place far from here. A place she had never been, a place she had only heard about in passing conversations, where the wealthy lived, where the powerful stayed behind gates. The journey wasn't easy. Took time, more than she expected. Amara walked slowly, each step measured, her body conserving what little energy it had. The sun rose higher with each passing minute, the coolness of morning quickly fading into familiar heat. Her stomach growled again, sharper this time, more demanding. She pressed her lips together and kept walking. She had passed small shops, busy corners, people starting their day. Some glanced at her, others ignored her completely. A few looked at the bag, but no one asked. No one stopped her. At one point, her steps slowed, her vision blurred slightly. She stopped just for a moment, breathing heavily, her hand resting on a nearby wall for support. "You're okay," she whispered to herself. "You're okay." But her body wasn't convinced. Neither was her hunger. Still, she pushed forward. Eventually, the environment began to change. The roads became smoother, cleaner. The noise shifted from loud, chaotic movement to controlled, distant activity. The buildings grew larger, more polished, more intentional. And then she saw it. The gates, tall, black, imposing. They stretched high above her, adorned with intricate designs that spoke of wealth without needing to say a word. Behind them, a glimpse of something even more overwhelming, a mansion, massive, elegant, untouchable. Amara stopped walking. Her feet refused to move any further. Her heart began to pound heavily in her chest. "This can't be it," she whispered. But it was. The address matched. Every detail, every number, every word. This was the place. She looked down at herself. Her dress, her slippers, her hands, dust, wear, struggle. Then she looked back up at the gates. Perfection, order, power. The contrast was painful, almost humiliating. "They won't let me in," she said quietly. Doubt crept in fast, aggressive. What was she thinking? Coming here like this, looking like this, carrying something so valuable, but appearing like nothing. Her grip on the bag tightened. Her chest rose and fell quickly. "Maybe I should just leave it," she whispered. "Maybe I should just go." But her feet didn't move, because something inside her knew she hadn't come this far to turn back. A voice broke through her thoughts. "Hey." Amara flinched slightly, turning toward the sound. A security guard stood near the gate, watching her closely. His expression wasn't welcoming. It was cautious, suspicious. "What are you doing there?" he asked. His tone was firm, professional, but edged with doubt. Amara swallowed, her throat suddenly dry again. She stammered. Her voice felt small, weak. The guard stepped closer. His eyes moved from her face to her clothes to the bag in her hand. Suspicion deepened. "You can't stand here," he said. "State your business." Amara tightened her grip on the bag. "I came to return something," she said finally, her voice steadier now. The guard raised a brow. "Return what?" She hesitated, then slowly lifted the bag slightly. "This." The guard's expression changed, but not in the way she expected. Not relief, not recognition, more suspicion. "Open it," he said. Amara froze. Her heart skipped. "Open it here in front of him." She hesitated, but something in his posture made it clear. She didn't have much choice. Slowly, carefully, she unzipped the bag just enough. The guard leaned in slightly, his eyes widened just for a second, but she saw it. Then he quickly straightened, his expression tightening. "Wait here," he said sharply and turned away immediately. Amara's heart raced. Had she done something wrong? Would they accuse her? Would they believe her? Her thoughts spiraled quickly, fear replacing uncertainty. She closed the bag again, holding it tightly now, almost defensively. Moments passed, long, heavy, each second stretching painfully. Then the gates began to open. Slowly, with a deep mechanical sound, Amara's breath caught. Her eyes widened slightly. The guard returned. "Come," he said, short, direct, no warmth. Her feet felt heavy as she stepped forward, crossing the line between two worlds, from everything she knew into everything she didn't. Inside, everything changed. The air felt different, cleaner, calmer. The ground beneath her feet smooth and polished. Cars lined the driveway, expensive, spotless, silent. The building itself stood tall and proud, its design both modern and timeless. Amara's steps slowed, her eyes moved everywhere, taking it all in, trying to understand it, trying to believe it. "This is how people live," she whispered softly, not with envy, but with quiet disbelief. She became suddenly aware of herself again, her appearance, her presence, her difference. She lowered her gaze slightly, feeling out of place, unwanted, small. They led her inside. The doors opened to reveal an interior that felt almost unreal. Marble floors, high ceilings, soft lighting, everything spotless, everything perfect. Her reflection faintly visible beneath her feet as she walked. She hesitated slightly, afraid to step further, afraid she might stain something just by being there. "Move," the guard said. She obeyed. They stopped in a large room, spacious, elegant, quiet. "Wait here," the guard said, then left. Amara stood alone, her heart pounding, her hands gripping the bag tightly, her eyes scanning the room, every detail overwhelming her senses. She felt exposed, like she didn't belong, like at any moment someone would walk in and tell her to leave. Then footsteps, calm, measured, confident. She turned and saw him. He walked in like someone who owned not just the room, but everything around it. Tall, well-dressed, sharp, composed. His presence filled the space effortlessly. He stopped when he saw her, and for the first time his expression changed. Confusion, then curiosity, then something deeper. His eyes moved from her face to her clothes to the bag in her hands, then back to her. "You're the one who came with the bag?" he asked, his voice calm, controlled, but interested. Amara nodded slowly. "Yes." Her voice almost failed her, but she held on. Silence followed, heavy, expectant. The moment hung between them, two completely different worlds standing face to face, connected by one decision, and everything was about to change. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched between them, thick and deliberate, as though the room itself was holding its breath. Amara stood still, her fingers wrapped tightly around the handle of the black leather bag. She could feel her pulse in her palms, fast and unsteady, betraying the calm she was trying so hard to maintain. The man in front of her, Adrian Cole, watched her carefully, not casually, not dismissively, but with intention. His eyes were sharp, observant, taking in every detail. The dust on her clothes, the slight tremble in her posture, the way she held the bag like it mattered more than anything else. He wasn't used to surprises. His world was structured, predictable, controlled. But this was unexpected. "You said you came to return something," he said finally. His voice was smooth, measured, the kind of voice that carried authority without needing to raise itself. Amara nodded, swallowing softly. "Yes." Her voice was quieter than his, but steady enough. She took a small step forward, lifting the bag slightly. "This belongs to you." Adrian didn't move immediately. He simply looked at the bag, then at her, then back at the bag again, as though trying to confirm that what he was seeing was real. "Open it," he said. Amara hesitated for the briefest second, then she nodded. Carefully. She lowered the bag onto a nearby table. Her fingers moved to the zipper. There was something about the moment that made her aware of every tiny sound. The faint scrape of the zipper, the soft rustle of fabric, even her own breathing. She opened it fully, then stepped back. Adrian walked forward slowly, deliberately. His gaze dropped into the bag, and for the first time, his composure cracked. His brows pulled together, not in anger, not in confusion, but in disbelief. He reached inside, pulling out one of the bundles. His fingers tightened around it slightly as though testing its reality, then another. Then another. Everything was there. Every single bundle, every note, exactly as it had been. He exhaled slowly, then looked up at her. "This," he began, his voice quieter now. "Where did you find it?" Amara clasped her hands together in front of her, her fingers intertwined tightly. "In a trash bin," she said. The words hung in the air. Strange, unbelievable, almost absurd. Adrian blinked. "In a trash bin," he repeated. Amara nodded. "Yes." His gaze sharpened again, studying her, measuring her, trying to read something deeper beneath her words. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that you found a bag filled with this amount of money in a trash bin?" He paused. His eyes locked onto hers. "And you brought it back?" Amara felt her chest tighten slightly under his gaze, but she didn't look away. "Yes," she said simply. "No explanation, no embellishment, just truth." Adrian let out a short breath that almost sounded like a laugh, but not quite. More like disbelief struggling to settle. He placed the bundle back into the bag, then closed it halfway, his fingers resting on the edge. "Do you have any idea how much money this is, Amaz?" he asked. Amara shook her head. "I didn't count it." Her voice was calm, not careless, not uninterested, just honest. "I didn't need to." That answer hit differently. Adrian leaned back slightly, folding his arms. His eyes never left her. "Most people," he said slowly, "would have taken at least something." He tilted his head slightly, if not everything. Amara lowered her gaze briefly, not in guilt, but in thought. Then she looked back up. "It's not mine," she said, simple, direct, final. Something shifted in the room, subtle, but undeniable. Adrian felt it. He wasn't just hearing her words, he was weighing them, testing them against everything he knew about people, about greed, about opportunity, about survival. Because in his experience, people took, especially when no one was watching, especially when they had nothing. And yet here she stood, a woman who clearly had nothing, returning everything. "Why?" he asked. The question came out before he could stop it. Not sharp, not accusing, just genuine, curious. Amara blinked slightly, as if the question itself surprised her. "Why?" she repeated softly. Adrian nodded. "Yes." He stepped a little closer now. Not threatening, but intentional. "You're clearly struggling," he said, choosing his words carefully. His eyes briefly glanced at her belly, then back to her face. "You could have walked away with this, and no one would have known." A pause, a beat. Why didn't you? The room fell silent again. But this silence felt different, heavier, more personal. Amara's fingers tightened slightly. She inhaled slowly, then exhaled. Her eyes softened, but not with weakness, with something stronger, something rooted. If I kept it, she said quietly, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. Adrian's expression shifted just slightly. She continued, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. I may not have much, she said, but I still have who I am. Her hand moved unconsciously to her belly, and I want my child to have that too. That did it. Something in Adrian's chest tightened unexpectedly. Not discomfort, not pity, something else. Respect. He looked at her differently now, not as a stranger, not as a curiosity, but as something rare, something he didn't encounter often or maybe ever. You didn't take anything? He asked again, not because he didn't hear her before, but because he needed to be sure. Amara shook her head. No. Adrian studied her face, looking for hesitation, for cracks, for anything that suggested otherwise. But there was nothing, just honesty, clear, uncomplicated, unshaken. He let out a breath. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed softly, shaking his head slightly. This is, he muttered, this is unbelievable. Amara didn't react. She simply stood there, waiting. Amara didn't react. Adrian ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly now. This bag, he said, gesturing toward it, was stolen from me days ago. He glanced at her again. We've been trying to track it. Paused. And now you're telling me it ended up in a trash bin and somehow found its way back to me through you. Amara nodded. That's what happened. Another silence. But this one felt lighter, more alive. Adrian stopped pacing, then looked at her fully again, taking her in, her exhaustion, her strength, her quiet dignity. What's your name? He asked. Amara. He nodded slowly. Amara. He repeated it like he was committing it to memory. Then, without warning, he asked, Where do you live? Amara hesitated just for a second, then answered honestly, I don't. The words landed heavily. Adrian didn't speak immediately. He just looked at her, really looked at her now. And this time he saw everything. Not just the surface, not just the situation, but the reality. You're homeless? He asked quietly. Amara nodded. Another pause. Longer this time, more thoughtful. Adrian turned slightly, looking away for a moment. His jaw tightened faintly. Something was happening inside him, a shift, a decision forming. Then he turned back. And when he spoke again, his voice had changed. Not in tone, but in weight. You're not leaving, he said. Amara blinked, caught off guard. What? Adrian stepped closer. Not too close, but enough to make his words clear. You returned something most people would have stolen without hesitation, he said. You showed integrity in a situation where integrity is rare. He paused, then added, I don't ignore things like that. Amara's heart began to race again, but this time for a different reason. What are you saying? She asked softly. Adrian held her gaze calm. Certain. I'm saying, he said, you're staying here. Her breath caught. As what? She whispered. Adrian's lips curved slightly, not a full smile, but close. As part of my household staff, he said. A maid. Silence. Amara stared at him, her mind struggling to catch up. A maid here in this place. You'll have a place to stay, he continued. Food, medical care. His eyes flicked briefly to her belly again, and stability. Her vision blurred slightly, not from weakness, but from emotion. You don't have to decide now, he added, but the offer stands. Amara swallowed hard, her chest rising and falling unevenly. She looked at the bag, then at him, then at the room around her. This world, this opportunity, this unexpected turn. Her voice came out soft, but certain. Yes. Adrian nodded once as if he had expected that answer, And just like that, the woman who had nothing had been given a doorway into everything. But neither of them knew yet that this was only the beginning. Amara didn't realize she had been holding her breath until she exhaled. Yes. The word had left her lips so softly, yet it echoed loudly in her mind. There was no taking it back now, no stepping away, no returning to the version of her life that had existed just hours ago. Something had shifted irreversibly. Adrian watched her for a moment after she answered. Not surprised, not overly expressive, just observant, as though confirming that her decision matched what he had already sensed about her. Good, he said simply. Then he turned slightly toward the door. Maria. The name had barely settled in the air when a woman appeared. She looked to be in her early 40s, dressed neatly in a simple but clean uniform. Her posture was straight, her expression composed, but her eyes were kind. Yes, sir, she responded. Adrian gestured toward Amara. She'll be staying with us. Maria's gaze shifted first to Amara's face, then briefly to her clothes, then to her belly. There was no judgment there, just quiet understanding. Prepare a room for her, Adrian continued, and make sure she's taken care of. Maria nodded. Of course, sir. Adrian looked back at Amara one last time. If you need anything, he said, you ask. It wasn't said like an option, it was said like a rule. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. Calm, controlled, as though nothing extraordinary had just happened. But for Amara, everything had. She stood there for a few seconds longer, her mind struggling to process the speed at which her life had just changed. A few hours ago, she had been sitting beside a trash bin, hungry, tired, invisible. Now she was standing inside a mansion, offered a job, a place to stay, a chance. It didn't feel real. Come, my dear, Maria's voice said gently. Amara turned. The older woman gave her a small, reassuring smile. You must be exhausted. The words hit deeper than expected. Exhausted? Yes, but more than that. Overwhelmed, afraid, hopeful, all at once. Amara nodded slowly. Yes, I am. Maria stepped closer, her movements calm and unhurried. Let me take you to your room, she said. Then she glanced at the bag still in Amara's hand. That will be taken care of, she added softly. Amara hesitated, her grip tightening slightly. The bag had been everything just hours ago. Now it felt like something she needed to let go of. Slowly, she handed it over. Maria accepted it with care. Don't worry, she said. You've done more than enough. They began to walk. Every step felt unreal. The floors were smooth beneath her feet. Too smooth. Her worn slippers made soft, out-of-place sounds against the polished surface. Amara became painfully aware of it, of herself, of every difference. She kept her gaze low, afraid that if she looked too much, she might feel even more out of place than she already did. They moved through wide hallways lined with framed artwork and soft lighting. Everything was neat, intentional, perfect. The air smelled clean, fresh in a way she wasn't used to, not like the heavy mixed scents of the streets. This was different, controlled, peaceful. You don't have to be nervous, Maria said gently, as if reading her thoughts. Amara glanced at her briefly. I've never been somewhere like this before. Maria smiled. I can tell, but there was no mockery in her tone, only warmth. You'll get used to it. Amara wasn't sure if she believed that, but she nodded anyway. They stopped in front of a door. Maria opened it slowly. Here, she said. This will be your room. Amara stepped inside and froze. It wasn't just a room, it was everything. A bed large, neatly made with clean white sheets, a small table, a wardrobe, a window that let in soft, natural light. Everything was simple, but to her felt like luxury. Her chest tightened, her eyes stung. She walked in slowly as though afraid the space might disappear if she moved too quickly. This is mine, she asked softly. Maria nodded. Yes, Amara reached out, touching the edge of the bed. The fabric felt soft beneath her fingers, cleaner than anything she had touched in months. She sat down slowly. The mattress dipped gently under her weight, and for a moment she just sat there, not speaking, not moving, just feeling. Tears slipped down her cheeks, quiet, unannounced. "I didn't think," she whispered, her voice broke. "I didn't think I would have something like this again." Maria stepped closer. Her expression softened. "You deserve it," she said. Amara shook her head slightly. "I just returned something that wasn't mine." Maria gave a small smile. "That's exactly why you deserve it." Silence followed, but it wasn't heavy. It was comforting. "Come," Maria said after a moment. "Let's get you cleaned up." Cleaned up? The words felt strange, unfamiliar, almost distant. The bathroom was unlike anything Amara had seen before. Tiles, running water, a mirror, everything spotless. She stood at the entrance for a moment, hesitating, unsure. "It's all right," Maria said gently. "Take your time." When Amara stepped inside, it felt like stepping into another world. She turned the tap slowly. Water flowed, clear, steady, endless. Her breath caught. She placed her hands under it. The coolness sent a shock through her skin, then relief, deep, immediate. She washed slowly, carefully, as if savoring every second, every drop. The dirt that had clung to her for so long began to fade. Her skin felt lighter, her body cleaner. When she looked into the mirror afterward, she barely recognized herself. Not because she had changed, but because she could finally see herself again. Maria had left fresh clothes for her. Simple, comfortable, clean. Amara changed slowly, her movements careful, almost reverent, as though she was stepping into a version of herself she had lost. When she stepped out, Maria smiled. "There you are, you see them," she said. Amara looked down at herself, then back up. Her eyes filled again. But this time, there was something new in them, not just pain, not just survival, but hope. "Thank you," she whispered. Maria nodded. "You're safe here." Safe. The words settled deeply in her chest. Later that evening, Amara sat quietly on her bed. The room was dimly lit. The house calm, peaceful. She placed her hand on her belly. "You see," she whispered softly, "we made it through today." The baby moved gently. She smiled. A real smile this time. Not forced, not fragile, but warm. "I don't know what tomorrow will bring," she continued. "But maybe," she paused, her eyes drifting toward the window. "Maybe it will be better." And for the first time in a long time, she believed it. Somewhere else in the house. Adrian stood by a window, looking out into the night. His expression thoughtful, quiet. He wasn't thinking about the money. Not anymore. He was thinking about her, the woman who had nothing but still chose honesty. He exhaled slowly, shaking his head slightly, as if trying to understand something that didn't fit into his world. "Amara," he murmured. And though he didn't realize it yet, that name was about to mean far more to him than he ever expected. Morning in the mansion did not arrive loudly. It didn't crash in with noise or chaos. It unfolded softly, gently, like a well-rehearsed routine that had no room for disorder. Amara woke to silence, not the uneasy, watchful silence of the streets, but a calm, steady quiet that felt safe. For a moment, she didn't move. She lay on her side, staring at the smooth ceiling above her, her mind slow to catch up with her reality. Then she felt it. The softness beneath her, the warmth around her, the absence of pain in her back. Her eyes widened slightly. The bed, her room, this place, it hadn't been a dream. She sat up slowly, her movements careful. Her body still tired, but not as strained as before, not as desperate. Her hand moved to her belly instinctively. The baby shifted gently, alive, steady with her. She smiled. a small, quiet smile. "We're still here," she whispered. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her feet touched the smooth floor. Clean, cool, unfamiliar. Everything still felt new, but not frightening anymore, just different. A soft knock came at the door. Amara stiffened slightly. "Come in," she said, her voice hesitant. The door opened. Maria stepped in carrying a folded set of clothes. "Good morning," she said warmly. Amara nodded. "Good morning." Maria walked in and placed the clothes neatly on the bed. "These are for you," she said. "Something simple for work." Amara looked at them. A neat uniform, clean, pressed, proper. She reached out slowly, touching the fabric. Felt official, real. "Thank you," she said quietly. Maria studied her for a moment. "You'll be starting light today," she added, just observing, helping where needed. "No pressure." Amara nodded again. Relief flickered across her face. "I don't want to do anything wrong." Maria smiled gently. "You won't," then she added with quiet assurance. "And even if you do, we'll correct it, not punish it." That meant more than Amara expected. She nodded again, more firmly this time. After getting dressed, Amara stood in front of the mirror. The uniform fit her well, not perfectly, but well enough. She adjusted it slightly, smoothed it down, then looked at herself. Really looked. She didn't look like the woman from the roadside anymore, not entirely, but she also didn't look like she belonged here yet. She stood somewhere in between. And for now, that was enough. The kitchen was already alive when she arrived. Not chaotic, but active, purposeful. Pot simmered quietly on the stove. Utensils moved with soft, practiced sounds. Two women stood near a counter, speaking in low voices as they worked. A young man carried a tray across the room with careful precision. Everything flowed like a system that had been perfected over time. As soon as Amara stepped in, the room noticed. The conversation softened, not stopped, just shifted. Curious glances moved toward her. Quick, subtle, but present. Maria stepped in behind her. "This is Amara," she announced. "She'll be working with us from today." There was a brief pause. Then one of the women, a round-faced lady with kind eyes, smiled. "Welcome," she said. "Oh," she said. Another nodded. "Good to have you." The young man raised a hand slightly in greeting. Amara blinked, surprised. She hadn't expected warmth. Not this quickly. Not this easily. "Thank you," she said softly. Maria gestured toward the counters. "Come," she said. "I'll show you around." The next hour passed in small instructions. Gentle guidance, quiet correction. "This is where we keep the utensils. Always clean as you go. Never leave water on the floor. Everything has its place." Amara listened carefully, absorbing everything. Her movements were cautious at first, slow, measured, but precise. She washed dishes carefully, thoroughly, as though each plate mattered. She wiped surfaces, not rushing, not cutting corners. She carried items from one end of the kitchen to the other, steady, focused, and slowly. The tension began to fade. "She's fast," one of the women whispered to another. "And careful," the other replied. Amara heard them. She didn't react, but inside something warmed. It had been a long time since anyone had seen her and not dismissed her. By midday, the atmosphere had changed. The glances were no longer just curious. They were approving. "You've done this before," the round-faced woman said. Amara shook her head. "Not like this." The woman chuckled softly. "Well, you're doing well." Amara smiled faintly. "Thank you." For the first time in a long time, she felt useful. Not pitied, not ignored, useful. But not everyone felt the same. She noticed him before he spoke, standing near the doorway, leaning slightly against the frame, watching. The driver, Victor. There was something about the way he stood, too still, too focused, like he wasn't just looking at her, he was studying her. Amara's movements slowed slightly. Her awareness sharpened. Their eyes met. His expression didn't change. No smile, no greeting, just a cold, unreadable stare. Then he spoke. New one. His voice was flat, dry, unwelcoming. Maria stepped forward slightly. Yes, her name is Amara. Victor's gaze shifted back to Amara. Slow, deliberate. She won't last, he said. The words landed sharply, cutting through the room. Silence followed. Brief, tense. Amara felt it, the shift, the discomfort. Maria's voice was calm but firmer now. That's not for you to decide. Victor shrugged slightly as if it didn't matter, but his eyes remained on Amara. You don't belong here, he said. The words were quiet, but heavy. Amara's chest tightened, but she didn't respond. She held his gaze just for a second, then looked away and continued working. Victor let out a faint scoff, then pushed himself off the doorway and walked away. The tension lingered even after he left. Don't mind him, Maria said gently. He's like that. Amara nodded, but something inside her didn't settle. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Cold, certain, almost personal. As the day continued, the warmth of the others remained. They spoke to her more, asked small questions, shared light laughter. But in the back of her mind, Victor stayed there like a shadow she couldn't ignore. Later that evening, Amara stepped outside briefly. The sun was setting, casting soft orange light across the compound. She stood still, breathing in, taking it in. Her hand rested on her belly again. We're doing okay, she whispered. But her eyes drifted toward the driveway, toward the gate, toward the place Victor had disappeared to earlier. A faint unease settled in her chest. She didn't understand it yet, didn't have a reason, didn't have proof. But something in her spirit whispered quietly, be careful. And though the house had accepted her, not everyone in it had. The days began to settle into rhythm. Not rushed, not chaotic, but steady, predictable, safe. Amara adjusted to the mansion in small ways at first. The way she walked, more confident now, less hesitant. The way she spoke, still gentle but no longer unsure. The way she worked, efficient, careful, and increasingly trusted. She learned the routines. Morning cleaning, midday preparations, evening arrangements. Everything had a flow, everything had a place. And slowly she found her place too. The staff no longer saw her as the new one. They called her by name. They joked with her. They trusted her with tasks without watching over her shoulder. You're too quiet, the round-faced woman teased one afternoon. Amara smiled slightly. I talk when I need to. The woman laughed. Then maybe we should give you more reasons. And just like that, Amara laughed too. Soft but real. It had been a long time since laughter came easily, but beyond the kitchen, beyond the routines, something else was changing. Something quieter, something neither of them had planned. It started with small things. Amara. She turned at the sound of her name. Adrian stood at the entrance of the hallway, one hand in his pocket, his expression neutral, but his eyes searching. Yes, sir, she replied. He paused slightly, then said, Come with me. No explanation, no urgency, just a request. She followed, her steps measured, her mind curious. They entered a sitting room smaller than the others, more personal, less formal, more human. Sit, he said, gesturing toward a chair. Amara hesitated, then sat carefully, her posture straight, alert. Adrian remained standing for a moment, then sat across from her. Silence, not uncomfortable but unfamiliar. He studied her briefly, then spoke. How are you settling in? The question surprised her. It wasn't about work, it wasn't about tasks, it was about her. "I'm okay," she said. Then after a small pause, "Better than okay." Adrian nodded. "Good." Another pause. "Then are they treating you well?" Amara blinked slightly. "Yes." A faint smile touched her lips. "They're kind." Adrian leaned back slightly. "Good," he repeated. And that could have been the end of it. A simple check-in, a short conversation, but it wasn't. "Do you always speak this carefully?" he asked suddenly. Amara frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Adrian's lips curved faintly. "Like you're choosing every word before you say it." She hesitated, then gave a small shrug. "I've learned that words can cost you when you don't have much else." That answer lingered. Adrian's expression shifted slightly, not dramatically, but enough. "And now?" he asked. Amara looked at him. Really looked. "I'm still learning," she said. Something about that made him smile. Not the polite kind. A real one, small but genuine. And that was how it started. After that day, he called her again. Not for work, not for instructions, just to talk. Sometimes it was brief. "How was your day?" "Busy, good busy, or bad busy?" "Good busy." Other times he stretched. "What did you do before this?" he asked one evening. Amara looked down briefly, then back up. "I worked at a food stall." "Did you like it?" She nodded slowly. "I liked earning something." Adrian tilted his head slightly. "That's not the same as liking the work." She smiled faintly. "No, it's not." Silence followed. Then she added, "But it felt honest." That word again, honest. Adrian leaned forward slightly. "And this doesn't?" Amara shook her head quickly. "No, it does. I just mean..." She paused, searching for the right words. "I mean, I've never had something like this before." Adrian watched her carefully. "Something stable," she finished. That word stayed with him. Stable. He had always had stability. It had never been something he noticed, never something he questioned until now. Until her. Days turned into evenings. Evenings into quiet conversations. They talked about simple things. Food, work, weather, then deeper things. "Do you ever get tired of it?" she asked one night. "Of what? This?" She gestured lightly around them. The control, the structure, always being watched. Adrian considered that longer than expected. "Yes," he said finally. Amara blinked, surprised. "Yes," she repeated. He nodded. "More than you think. Why don't you change it?" Adrian let out a soft breath. "It's not that simple. Why not?" He looked at her, then smiled faintly. "Because people expect me to be a certain way." Amara tilted her head slightly. "And you don't." Adrian didn't answer immediately. "I don't know anymore," he said finally. And for the first time, there was something vulnerable in his voice. Amara noticed it. She didn't push, didn't question further. She just said, "You can choose." Simple, but powerful. Adrian looked at her again, longer this time. "You make things sound easy," he said. Amara shook her head gently. "They're not." "Then why say it like that?" She smiled faintly. "Because sometimes we need to hear it simply." That stayed with him more than he expected, and slowly, without either of them naming it, something began to grow. It wasn't loud, wasn't obvious. It lived in the pauses, in the way their conversations lasted longer than necessary, in the way he started looking for her even when he had no reason to, in the way she felt calmer when he was near. One evening, rain began to fall, soft at first, then steady. Amara stood by a window watching it. Her arms folded lightly over her stomach. Adrian entered the room quietly. He noticed her immediately. "You like the rain?" he asked. She nodded. "It feels peaceful." He stepped closer, standing beside her. Not too close, but closer than before. "I used to hate it," he said. Amara glanced at him. "Why?" "It slowed everything down." She smiled slightly. "Maybe that's why I like it." He looked at her. Really looked. "Because your life has always been fast?" he asked. She shook her head. "No." A small pause. Because it's always been hard. The words were quiet, but heavy. Adrian's expression softened. Neither of them spoke after that. They just stood there watching the rain, listening to it. And somehow that silence said more than any conversation they had shared before. Amara felt it. That shift, that closeness scared her a little, but it also felt right. And as the rain continued to fall outside, inside something fragile, something unexpected, something real had begun to take root. The rain did not stop. It carried on through the evening, steady and unrelenting, tapping softly against the wide glass windows like a quiet rhythm that refused to fade. Inside the mansion, everything felt calmer, quieter, almost suspended. Amara stood by the window long after Adrian had joined her. Her arms rested gently around her belly, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing small, slow circles as she watched the rain blur the world outside. The droplets raced each other down the glass, merging, splitting, disappearing. There was something hypnotic about it, something peaceful. But her mind was not at peace. Not entirely. She was aware of him, deeply aware, even without looking. Adrian stood beside her, close, closer than he had ever stood before. Not touching, not quite, but close enough that she could feel his presence like warmth against her skin. Neither of them spoke. Not immediately. The silence between them was no longer unfamiliar, but tonight it was different. Heavier, full, charged with something neither of them had named. Adrian glanced at her. Not quickly, not casually, but deliberately. He noticed everything. The way her shoulders rose and fell slowly with each breath. The softness in her expression as she looked out at the rain. The way her hand moved over her belly. Protective, instinctive. She looked peaceful, but also fragile and strong all at once. "You're thinking about something, Issa," he said quietly. Amara didn't turn immediately. She kept her gaze on the rain. Then after a moment, "I think a lot these days." Adrian's lips curved faintly. I've noticed that almost made her smile. Almost. "What about?" he asked. This time she did turn slowly. Her eyes met his. For a second she hesitated. Then she answered honestly. "You?" The words settled between them, soft but undeniable. Adrian didn't react immediately, but something in his gaze shifted, something deeper. "Me?" he repeated. Amara nodded slightly, her expression calm, but her heartbeat anything but. "You confuse me," she said. Adrian let out a quiet breath. "That makes two of us." That caught her off guard. "You?" she asked. He nodded. "Yes, a small pause. You don't act the way I expect you to." Amara tilted her head slightly. "Is that a bad thing?" Adrian shook his head slowly. "No." Another pause. "It's rare." The word lingered. Amara looked away briefly back at the rain. "I don't know how to be anything else," she said softly. Adrian studied her. Longer this time. "That's what makes it dangerous," he said quietly. Her brows pulled together slightly. "Dangerous?" He nodded. "Yes." Paused. "Because people like you don't come around often." Amara's chest tightened slightly. "And when they do?" she asked. Adrian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer. The distance between them shrank. Not suddenly, not forcefully, but intentionally. Amara felt it instantly. Her breath caught, her body stilled. "And when they do," he said softly, his voice lower now, "they change things." The air shifted. Amara's heart began to race fast, loud, uncontrollable. She should step back. She knew that. She felt it. That instinct, that warning. But she didn't move because something else was stronger. Something that had been building quietly over days, over conversations, over shared silences. "Adrian," she whispered. His name felt different on her lips, more personal, more real. He noticed. His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then back to her eyes. "Say it again," he murmured. Amara blinked. What? My name? Her breath hitched slightly. Adrian, she said again, softer this time. Something in him shifted. That was it. That was the moment the last thread of restraint began to unravel. The rain grew louder against the windows, or maybe it just felt that way. Time slowed. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them moved. And yet everything was happening. Amara could feel the tension in the space between them, the pull, the quiet question neither of them had asked out loud. Her mind whispered, "This is too much. This is too fast. This is dangerous." But her heart said nothing. It just beat faster, harder, closer. Adrian lifted his hand slightly, then paused as if giving her a chance to stop him, to step away, to say no. She didn't. So he closed the distance. His fingers brushed lightly against her arm, barely there, but enough. Amara inhaled sharply, her entire body responding instantly to the touch. He stepped closer now. There was almost no space between them. Her back was still to the window, the rain behind her, the moment in front of her. Amara, he said softly. Her name in his voice felt different, heavier, warmer. She looked up at him, her eyes searching his. "Tell me to stop," he said. Her heart pounded, but her lips didn't form the words. Instead, she shook her head just slightly. That was all he needed. He moved slowly, carefully, as if the moment itself could break if he rushed it. His hand lifted to her face, pausing just before touching her. Then gently he brushed his fingers against her cheek. Amara closed her eyes for a second, just a second, leaning into the touch. It had been so long since anyone had touched her like that, not out of need, not out of obligation, but out of something deeper. She opened her eyes again and found him closer. Their breaths mingled, warm, uneven, shared. The world outside disappeared. No rain, no house, no past, just this moment. He hesitated one last time, searching her face, making sure she didn't pull away. Didn't look away, didn't hide. So he leaned in and kissed her. Soft, slow, careful. It wasn't rushed, wasn't desperate, it was intentional. Amara froze for half a second, her mind trying to catch up, her heart racing wildly. Then she responded gently, naturally, as if something inside her had been waiting for this. The kiss deepened slightly, not in intensity, but in connection. It wasn't just physical. It was everything they hadn't said, everything they had felt, everything they had held back. Time lost meaning. Seconds stretched, or maybe it was minutes. Neither of them knew. Neither of them cared. When they finally pulled apart, it was slow, reluctant. Their foreheads rested lightly against each other, their breathing uneven. Neither spoke immediately because words would have ruined it. Amara's eyes opened first. She looked at him, really looked. And in that moment, there was no distance between them. Not in status, not in past, not in anything. Just two people connected. Adrian exhaled softly, almost like he had been holding it in the entire time. He started, then stopped because there were no words for it. Amara smiled faintly. "I know," she whispered, and that was enough. Outside, the rain continued to fall unchanged, unbothered. But inside, everything had changed. Because that kiss wasn't just a moment. It was a beginning. Morning did not feel the same. Something had changed. Amara felt it before she even opened her eyes. She lay still on her bed, staring at the ceiling, her heart beating just a little faster than usual. The memory of the night before lingered. The rain, the silence, the closeness, the kiss. Her fingers lifted slowly, brushing lightly against her lips as if trying to confirm it had really happened. A small smile formed, unconscious, soft, real. Then reality returned. Her chest tightened slightly, her mind catching up with everything that moment meant. Adrian. She sat up slowly, her hand moving instinctively to her belly. The baby shifted gently, grounding her. "This is complicated," she whispered. Not regret, not fear, but awareness. She swung her legs off the bed, standing carefully. Her body still adjusting, but stronger now, more stable than it had been just days ago. But her mind was anything but steady. What were they now? What did that moment mean? Could something like that even exist between them? She shook her head slightly. "Focus," she muttered. "There's work to do." Routine helped. It always did. The kitchen was already alive when she arrived. Familiar sounds, familiar faces, the comfort of movement and purpose. "Good morning," Maria greeted. "Good morning," Amara replied. "You look different," one of the women teased. Amara paused, her heart skipped. "Different," she repeated carefully. The woman smiled knowingly. Rested, laughter followed, light, playful. Amara smiled faintly, but inside her thoughts raced. Was it that obvious? She quickly busied herself with work, washing, arranging, moving, anything to keep her mind from drifting. But it drifted anyway. Every now and then her eyes would lift, searching. And once, just once, she saw him standing at the far end of the hallway. Adrian. Their eyes met. And in that brief moment, everything from the night before returned. The silence, the closeness, the kiss. Neither of them smiled. Neither spoke. But something passed between them. Unspoken, clear. Then he walked away. And just like that, the moment was gone. Amara exhaled slowly, her chest tight again. This was new territory. Unfamiliar, uncertain, and yet she couldn't deny it. Something had begun. But she didn't know yet that something else had already begun too, something darker. It was later that afternoon when it happened. Amara had been asked to take a small box to the storage area near the garage. A simple task, routine, nothing unusual. The hallway leading there was quieter than the rest of the house, less polished, less lived in. Her footsteps echoed softly as she walked, the box light in her hands, her mind calm, focused until she heard it. A voice, low, sharp. She froze. It came from just beyond the partially closed door ahead. "I told you it was supposed to be simple." Her breath caught. "Victor." She recognized the voice instantly. Her body went still. Her instincts sharpened. "No, listen to me," he continued, his tone irritated. Amara stepped closer slowly, carefully. She didn't mean to eavesdrop. She told herself that. But something in his voice pulled her in. "The bag was hidden exactly where we agreed," he said. Her heart skipped. "The bag? I don't know how he got it back," Victor continued. "But it doesn't matter. We move forward." Amara's chest tightened. Her grip on the box weakened slightly. "Move forward. This time we do it properly," he said. "No mistakes." Her breathing became shallow. A cold feeling spread through her body. She leaned slightly closer to the door. Barely, just enough to hear clearly. "Yes, inside job," Victor muttered. Same as before. The words hit her like a blow. Inside job. Her mind raced. "I'll handle my side," he continued. "You just make sure your people are ready." Amara's heart began to pound. Loud, fast, uncontrollable. "We strike again soon." That was it. Everything clicked. The bag, the money, the robbery, Victor. He hadn't just known about it, he had planned it. Her stomach twisted, her hand moved instinctively to her belly as if protecting the life inside her from the truth she had just uncovered. "I'll call you later," Victor said. Panic surged. Amara stepped back quickly, silently, her heart racing wildly now. The door creaked slightly. She froze, her breath caught in her throat. Had he heard that? Footsteps coming closer. Amara moved fast, but careful. She placed the box down near the wall and turned away, pretending to adjust something nearby. The door opened. Victor stepped out. His eyes landed on her immediately, sharp, suspicious. "What are you doing here?" he asked. Amara forced herself to stay calm. I was told to bring this," she said, gesturing to the box. Victor's gaze flicked to it, then back to her. His eyes narrowed slightly. "How long have you been here?" Her heart pounded harder. "Just now," she said. Pause, too long, too heavy. Victor studied her carefully, searching. Amara held her breath internally, keeping her face neutral still. Then he stepped past her. "Next time, knock," he muttered and walked away. Amara didn't move. Not immediately. She stood there frozen until his footsteps disappeared. Then her body reacted. Her knees weakened. She grabbed the wall for support, her breathing uneven, shallow. "Oh, God," she whispered. Her mind raced uncontrollably. He planned it. He stole the money. He lied. He's planning another one. Fear gripped her tightly. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was danger, real, immediate. Her thoughts turned to Adrian. He didn't know he was in danger, and if Victor suspected her, her chest tightened. She looked down at her belly. "I have to tell him," she whispered, her voice trembling. There was no question, no hesitation, but fear lingered. What if she was wrong? What if she misunderstood? What if Victor found out she heard everything? Her hands shook slightly, but then her expression hardened. No, she knew what she heard, and she knew what was right, just like before. She straightened slowly, her breathing still uneven, but controlled. "I won't stay quiet," she said softly. And in that moment, the same woman who had returned a fortune chose courage again. But this time, the stakes were much higher. Because now it wasn't just about honesty. It was about survival. Amara didn't walk. She moved fast, but controlled. Her heart pounded violently against her chest as she made her way back through the hallway. Her thoughts racing faster than her steps. Every sound felt louder, every movement sharper, every second heavier. Victor's voice echoed in her mind. "We strike again soon." Her hand pressed firmly against her belly, protective, instinctive. "You're okay," she whispered under her breath, but she wasn't sure who she was reassuring anymore. Her mind battled itself. What if you're wrong? What if you misunderstood? What if this causes more harm? But another voice rose, stronger, clearer. And what if you're right? That settled it. She reached the main corridor, her breathing uneven, her steps slowing now, not because she wanted to stop, but because she needed to think. Where was Adrian? She looked around quickly. The house felt normal, too normal. Staff moved calmly. Voices stayed low. Nothing reflected the storm inside her. Then she saw him at the far end of the hallway, speaking with someone, calm, focused, unaware. Her chest tightened sharply. He didn't know. And danger was already inside his house. "Sir?" she called out before she could stop herself. Her voice cut through the air, not loud, but urgent. Adrian turned immediately the moment his eyes landed on her. He knew something was wrong. He excused himself without hesitation and walked toward her. Quick, focused. "Amara," he said, his voice low but firm. "What is it?" She glanced around, staff nearby, walls too open, ears too close. "Not here," she whispered. That was all he needed. "Come," he said. He led her quickly down a side hallway into a private room. The door closed behind them. Silence, but not calm. "What happened?" he asked immediately. Amara's chest rose and fell quickly. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were steady. "I heard him," she said. Adrian frowned. "Who?" "Victor." That name alone shifted something in Adrian's expression. "What about him?" he asked. Amara took a breath, then everything came out. "The robbery," she said. "The money? It wasn't random." Her voice steadied as she continued. "He planned it. Adrian didn't interrupt, didn't react immediately. He just listened. He was on the phone, she continued, talking about the bag, about how it was hidden, about how it didn't go as planned. Her words came faster now, stronger. He said it was an inside job, she added, and that they're planning another attack. Silence. Heavy. Adrian's face didn't change much, but something in his eyes did. Darkened, sharpened, focused. Are you sure? He asked. Amara didn't hesitate. Yes. Pause. Then more quietly. I heard everything. Adrian looked at her long, carefully. He trusted people based on logic, evidence, patterns, but this was different because it was her and she had already proven something most people never could. Integrity. Still, this was serious. Very serious. You understand what you're saying? He said. Amara nodded. I do. And you're not mistaken. Her jaw tightened slightly. I'm not. That was enough. Adrian straightened. His entire demeanor shifted from calm to command. Stay here, he said. Amara's heart skipped. What are you going to do? She asked. Adrian's voice was steady, controlled, but firm. I'm going to handle it. Something in his tone made it clear. This was no longer a question. He walked to the door, then paused and turned back to her. Did he see you? He asked. Amara hesitated just for a second. He asked how long I had been there. Adrian's expression tightened. But I told him I just arrived. She added quickly. Another pause, then he nodded once. Stay inside, so, he repeated. And then he left. The door closed behind him. Amara stood still. The room suddenly felt too quiet, too small. Her hands moved to her belly again, her breathing uneven. It's going to be okay, she whispered. But this time she wasn't sure. Adrian didn't waste time. Within minutes, the house shifted subtly but noticeably. Security presence increased. Conversations stopped. Movements became more deliberate. He made a call. Short, precise. Get here now, he said. No explanation, no delay. Then he walked toward the garage. Victor was there, leaning against one of the cars, calm, unaware. Victor? Adrian called. The driver looked up. Yes, sir. Adrian approached slowly, measured, controlled. I need a word, he said. Victor nodded, pushed himself off the car. Of course. They stood facing each other. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Adrian spoke. The money that was stolen from me, he said. Victor's expression remained neutral. What about it? He asked. Adrian's eyes locked onto his. You were involved. The words landed like a hammer. Silence. Victor blinked once, then scoffed lightly. I don't know what you're talking about. Adrian didn't react. I suggest you think carefully before you answer again, he said. Victor's eyes narrowed slightly. Are you accusing me? He asked. Adrian stepped closer. Yes. The tension snapped. Victor's posture changed, subtle but visible. You're making a mistake, he said. Adrian's voice dropped slightly. No, he said. You already made one. Footsteps approached. Police. 2 officers entered the garage. Victor's eyes flicked toward them, then back to Adrian. Realization hit. You set me up, he muttered. Adrian's expression didn't change. No, he said, you exposed yourself. The officers stepped forward. Victor, one of them began, but Victor didn't wait. He moved fast, trying to push past them, but he didn't get far. One officer grabbed him, the other moved quickly. Within seconds, he was restrained. Let go of me, Victor shouted. His calm was gone, replaced with anger, desperation. You have no proof, he yelled. Adrian stepped forward. I have enough, he said. Victor glared at him. Then his eyes shifted toward the house, toward where Amara was. And in that moment, everything became clear. This is her doing, he spat. Adrian's expression hardened. You did this, he said. Victor laughed bitterly. She doesn't belong here, he said. She ruined everything. Adrian's voice dropped cold. No, he said, you did. The officers began to move him away. Victor struggled, shouted, cursed, but it didn't matter. It was over. Inside the house, Amara heard the noise, distant but clear. Her heart jumped. She moved toward the door, then stopped. Fear held her back for a moment. Then courage pushed her forward. She stepped out and saw it. Victor being led away. Their eyes met, his filled with anger, blame. "This is your fault," he shouted. Amara froze. The words hit hard, but she didn't respond. She didn't need to because the truth was already louder than anything he could say. The doors closed behind him. Silence returned, but everything had changed. Adrian walked back inside. His gaze immediately found her. She stood still, waiting. He walked toward her, stopped in front of her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he exhaled. "You were right," he said. Amara nodded slightly. "I'm glad you believed me." Adrian looked at her, really looked. "I didn't just believe you," he said. "I trusted you." Her chest tightened slightly, a different feeling this time. Warm. "You saved me," he added quietly. Amara shook her head. "I just told the truth." Adrian's lips curved faintly. "That's exactly what saved me." Silence followed, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was steady because justice had been served. And once again, Amara had chosen what was right no matter the cost. Time moved differently after that day. Not faster, not slower, just softer. The tension that had once lived quietly in the corners of the house was gone. No more lingering suspicion, no more unseen danger, no more watchful unease. Victor was gone. His absence didn't echo. It settled like something that had never truly belonged had finally been removed. And in its place, peace. Amara felt it in the little things. The way the staff laughed more freely. The way Maria hummed softly while working. The way the house itself seemed to breathe easier. But more than anything, she felt it inside herself. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't waiting for something to go wrong. She was simply living. Days passed, then weeks. Her routine remained, but it no longer felt like survival. It felt like stability. She worked, she rested, she ate properly, consistently. Her body changed. Strength returned slowly. Her steps became steadier, her posture stronger, her face fuller, and her pregnancy progressed beautifully. Her belly grew more round, more defined, a visible reminder of everything she had endured and everything she was building. "You're glowing," one of the women teased one afternoon. Amara laughed softly. "I think that's just because I'm finally eating." Laughter followed, warm, light, but there was truth in it. She was no longer just surviving, she was recovering. And she wasn't alone. Adrian had not stepped back. Not after the arrest, not after everything that had happened. If anything, he had stepped closer. Not in grand gestures, not in loud declarations, but in presence. He checked on her more often, sometimes with words, sometimes without. "Are you okay?" he would ask. "Yes. Are you sure?" A small smile. "Yes." Other times he didn't ask anything. He would just sit near her in the same room, working, reading, existing, and somehow that was enough. Their connection had changed, deepened. The kiss had not been a mistake, but it also hadn't rushed into something undefined. It settled like something understood, felt mutual. One evening they sat together in the same sitting room where everything had first begun. Amara rested back in her chair, one hand on her belly. Adrian sat across from her, watching. "You're thinking again," he said. She smiled slightly. "I always am." "What about this time?" She looked at him, her eyes softer now, more open. "I was thinking about how strange life is," she said. Adrian raised a brow. Strange? She nodded. A few weeks ago, I was sitting beside a trash bin trying to find food. Her voice didn't carry pain anymore, just truth. And now? He asked. She looked around, then back at him. Now I'm here. Paused. With you? The words lingered. Adrian leaned back slightly. And do you regret it? He asked. Amara's answer came immediately. No, no hesitation, no doubt. Adrian's expression softened. Neither do I, he said quietly. Silence followed, but it was warm. Then Amara shifted slightly, her expression tightening. Adrian noticed immediately. What is it? He asked. She inhaled sharply. The baby? She whispered. Another movement, stronger this time. Adrian leaned forward, concern flashing across his face. Is something wrong? Amara shook her head, but her breathing had changed. I think she paused. It's time. Everything shifted fast. The hospital lights were bright, too bright. The air was clean, sharp, focused. Amara lay on the bed, her hands gripping the sheets tightly as another wave of pain surged through her. She cried out. Adrian stood beside her, not calm, not composed, but present, completely present. I'm here, he said over and over again. Amara held onto his hand tightly, her strength tested. Her body pushed beyond its limits. You're doing well, the nurse said, but the pain didn't listen. Time blurred. Minutes stretched, hours passed, each moment intense, demanding, real. Amara cried, pushed, fought, and through it all. Adrian stayed, never leaving, never stepping back. Look at me, he said. At one point she did. You're not alone, he said. And she believed him. Finally, after one last push, a cry filled the room. Sharp, new, alive, everything stopped. Then everything changed. Amara collapsed back against the bed, exhausted, tears streaming down her face. The nurse placed the baby in her arms, small, fragile, perfect. Amara looked down, her heart swelling in a way she had never felt before. Hi, she whispered, her voice broke. Adrian stood beside her, speechless. He had seen many things in his life, built many things, owned many things, but nothing compared to this. He reached out slowly, touching the baby's tiny hand. She's beautiful, he said softly. Amara looked up at him. She is, she whispered. Their eyes met, and in that moment, everything aligned. Months later, the day was bright, warm, peaceful. The air carried a quiet excitement. Guests filled the garden. Elegant, smiling. Flowers lined the pathway. Soft music played in the background. And at the center of it all, Amara stood. No longer in torn clothes, no longer hungry, no longer uncertain. She wore a wedding gown. Simple, beautiful, radiant. Her baby was nearby, safe, loved, and in front of her Adrian, dressed sharply, but looking at her like nothing else in the world mattered. The ceremony was quiet, intimate, meaningful. No excess, no unnecessary grandeur, just truth. When it was time, Adrian took her hands in his voice steady but filled with something deeper. You walked into my life with nothing, he said. Amara smiled faintly and gave me everything I didn't know I was missing. Her eyes filled with tears. You showed me what honesty looks like, he continued. What strength looks like. What love really is. He paused. And I will spend the rest of my life honoring that. Silence. Then Amara spoke, her voice soft but unwavering. I thought returning that money meant losing my only chance at a better life. She smiled through her tears, but I didn't know. She looked at him. I was returning it to find my future. The words settled, deep, true. And when they kissed, It wasn't uncertain, wasn't fragile. It was sure, grounded, real, a promise. And just like that, the woman who once searched for food in a trash bin now stood surrounded by love, by peace, by purpose. Not because she was lucky, but because she chose what was right, even when it was hardest. And in the end, that choice gave her everything.